A 12-year-old homeless girl walked into a bank with nothing but a worn-out card her dying mother made her promise to keep safe. The billionaire behind the desk laughed at her. He thought she was wasting his time. But when he swiped that card, his face went completely white. What he saw on that screen didn't just shock him. It changed everything. And before you click away, let me tell you, this girl's story will break your heart and put it back together again. Stay with me. You need to hear this. Welcome to Voice of Granny. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Let me tell you a story that will stay with you long after I finish telling it. It's about a girl, about hope, and about the kind of miracles that happen when we least expect them. Her name was Lily Parker, and she was only 12 years old. On a cold Tuesday morning in downtown Chicago, she stood outside the massive glass doors of Sterling Trust Bank, shivering in clothes that had seen better days. Her jacket was too thin for the weather, her shoes had holes in the soles, and her hair hung in tangled knots around her face. But in her small, dirt-streaked hand, she held something precious. A white plastic card, scratched and faded from years of being carried in pockets and tucked under pillows. This card was all she had left of her mother. You see, Lily's mother had passed away 3 years ago. Before she died, weak and tired in that hospital bed, she had pressed this card into Lily's palm and whispered, "Keep this safe, baby. Keep it safe. When the time is right, you'll know what to do with it." Lily had been 9 years old then, and she didn't understand. She just knew that her mama wanted her to hold on to it, so she did. Through foster homes that didn't work out. Through nights sleeping in bus stations. Through days when hunger made her dizzy and cold made her bones ache. She held onto that card like it was a piece of her mother's love, frozen in plastic. And today, finally, she had decided to find out if it meant anything at all. The bank doors were heavy, so heavy that Lily had to push with both hands to open them. When she stepped inside, the warmth hit her face like a wall, and for a moment, she just stood there, letting the heated air thaw her frozen cheeks. The lobby was enormous, bigger than any place she had ever been. The floors were polished marble that reflected the ceiling lights like a mirror. Tall columns reached up toward a ceiling painted with clouds and angels. Everything gleamed. Everything sparkled. And everywhere she looked, people in expensive suits rushed past, talking on phones, carrying leather briefcases, moving with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about where your next meal will come from. Lily felt small. She felt dirty. She felt like she didn't belong. But she had come this far, and she wasn't going to turn back now. She walked slowly toward the customer service desk, her worn-out sneakers squeaking on the marble. People stared. A woman in a pearl necklace wrinkled her nose and stepped away. A security guard watched her carefully, his hand moving closer to his radio. A man in a three-piece suit actually stopped walking and turned to watch her, his face a mixture of confusion and disgust. Lily felt her cheeks burn with shame, but she kept walking. One foot in front of the other. That's all she had to do. At the desk sat a young woman with kind eyes and brown hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her name tag read Jessica. When Lily approached, Jessica looked up from her computer screen, and her expression softened immediately. Unlike the others, she didn't look at Lily with judgment. She looked at her with concern. "Hello, sweetheart," Jessica said gently. "How can I help you today?" Lily's voice came out smaller than she wanted it to. I need to check something. On this card." She slid the faded plastic across the counter with trembling fingers. Jessica picked up the card carefully, turning it over in her hands. It was clearly old. The numbers were worn almost smooth. The magnetic strip was scratched. But when Jessica looked at the bank logo on the front, her eyebrows raised slightly. This was one of their cards. Old but real. "Okay, honey," Jessica said. "Let me see what I can find out for you. What's your name?" "Lily. Lily Parker." "All right, Lily. Give me just a moment." Jessica began typing on her computer, and Lily stood there, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Around her, the bank continued its busy rhythm. Phones rang. Printers hummed. People talked about investments and interest rates and stock portfolios. None of them paid attention to the little girl at the counter, waiting to see if her mother had left her anything at all, or if this card was just a piece of plastic with nothing behind it but broken dreams. As Jessica worked, Lily let her mind wander back to her mother. She remembered her laugh, bright and musical. She remembered how her mother would sing while cooking, even when they only had rice and beans to eat. She remembered the way her mother would stroke her hair at bedtime and tell her stories about princesses who were brave and kind, who faced dragons and darkness and always found their way to the light. "You're my brave girl," her mother used to say. "No matter what happens, you keep being brave. You keep being kind. And you never, ever give up hope." Lily had tried. She really had. But hope was hard to hold on to when you were hungry and cold and alone. Jessica frowned at her screen, then picked up her phone. "Mr. Wellington?" "Yes, I have a situation here at the front desk. I need access to the legacy archive system. There's an old account that needs verification." She paused, listening. "Yes, sir. It's unusual. I think you should come take a look." Lily's stomach dropped. Was something wrong? Was she in trouble? Within minutes, a man appeared from one of the private offices at the back of the bank. He was tall, probably in his 50s, with silver hair swept back from his forehead and a suit that probably cost more than Lily had seen in her entire life. His shoes were so shiny they reflected the ceiling lights. A gold watch glinted on his wrist. And his face wore the expression of someone who was very important and very busy and not particularly happy about being interrupted. This was Richard Wellington, the bank's senior vice president. He was a man who handled accounts worth millions. He advised politicians and celebrities. He had his photograph on the wall in the executive hallway. And right now, he was walking toward Lily with an expression that clearly said he thought this was a waste of his valuable time. "Jessica," he said, not even glancing at Lily. "What seems to be the problem?" "Sir, this young lady has a card that's registered in our system, but it's flagged as a legacy account. I don't have clearance to access the details." Richard finally looked at Lily, and she watched his eyes travel from her tangled hair down to her worn shoes and back up again. His lip curled slightly, just a tiny movement, but Lily saw it. She had seen that look before, on the faces of people who thought she was worthless, who thought she was garbage, who thought she didn't matter. "I see," Richard said slowly. "And where did you get this card, young lady?" The way he said young lady didn't sound respectful. It sounded suspicious. "My mother gave it to me," Lily said, forcing herself to look him in the eye. "Before she died." Richard held out his hand, and Lily reluctantly placed the card in his palm. He examined it like it might be contaminated with something. "This card is quite old. Are you certain it's legitimate?" "My mama wouldn't lie," Lily said, and she heard her voice crack on the word mama. Richard sighed, the kind of sigh that said he had better things to do, but supposed he had to deal with this anyway. "Very well. Come with me. We'll use the executive terminal to verify this." He glanced at Jessica. "You can return to your other customers." But Jessica stood up. "Sir, if it's all right, I'd like to accompany Lily. She seems a bit nervous." Richard looked annoyed, but he nodded curtly. "Fine. Follow me. Both of you." They walked through the bank lobby, past the rows of tellers and customer service representatives, past the waiting area with its leather chairs and glass coffee table covered in financial magazines. People watched them go, this odd trio. The important executive, the kind employee, and the homeless girl who didn't belong. Lily heard whispers following in their wake. "Is that child lost? Why is Mr. Wellington dealing with her personally? Someone should call child services. She probably stole that card." Each whisper felt like a tiny knife, but Lily kept her head up. She kept being brave, just like her mother taught her. They entered a private section of the bank, where the walls were wood-paneled, and the carpet was so thick Lily's footsteps made no sound. Richard led them into a large office with windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. His desk was enormous, made of dark wood polished to a mirror shine. Behind it hung diplomas and awards and photographs of Richard shaking hands with important-looking people. He sat down at his desk and gestured impatiently for Lily to sit in one of the chairs across from him. Jessica stood beside her, one hand resting gently on Lily's shoulder. Richard inserted the card into a special reader attached to his computer, then began typing. His fingers flew across the keyboard with practiced ease. Lily watched his face, trying to read his expression, but it remained cold and professional. Then something changed. Richard's typing slowed. He leaned forward, squinting at the screen. His eyebrows drew together in confusion. He clicked something with his mouse, then leaned back, staring. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. Then opened again. "That can't be right," he muttered. He typed something else. Clicked. Waited. Stared. The color was slowly draining from his face. Jessica leaned forward, concerned. "Sir? Is everything all right?" Richard didn't answer. He was completely focused on the screen, his eyes moving back and forth like he was reading something over and over, trying to make sense of it. Lily felt her heart beginning to race. Something was happening. Something big. Finally, Richard looked up at Lily, and his expression had completely transformed. The condescension was gone. The impatience was gone. The judgment was gone. In their place was something Lily had never expected to see on the face of someone like him. Shock. Complete and total shock. "What's your full name?" he asked, and his voice sounded strange, almost hoarse. "Lily Rose Parker." "And your mother's name?" "Sarah." Sarah and Parker. Richard's hands were actually shaking as he picked up his phone. "Margaret, I need you in my office immediately. And bring David from legal. Now." He hung up without waiting for a response. Jessica's hand tightened on Lily's shoulder. "Mr. Wellington, what's going on? You're scaring her." Richard ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up for the first time probably all day. He stared at Lily like he was seeing her for the first time, really seeing her. "Lily," he said slowly, carefully. "Do you know a man named Thomas Brennan?" Lily thought hard, searching her memory. The name sounded familiar, like something from a dream. I think my mama mentioned that name. A long time ago. She used to clean houses, and I think Mr. Brennan was one of her clients." "He was more than a client," Richard said quietly. "Your mother worked for Thomas Brennan for 7 years. She took care of him after his wife died. She helped him when he was sick. She became like family to him." Lily felt tears stinging her eyes at the mention of her mother's kindness. That was who her mama was. Always helping. Always caring. Even when she was tired. Even when they barely had enough for themselves. 2 people entered the office quickly. A woman in a sharp business suit and a man carrying a leather folder. They both looked at Richard with questions in their eyes, then noticed Lily, and their expressions shifted to confusion. "Margaret, David, sit down," Richard said. "You're not going to believe this." They sat, and Richard turned his computer monitor so they could see the screen. Lily watched as their eyes widened, as Margaret's hand flew to her mouth, as David whispered something that sounded like, "Oh my God." "What?" Lily asked, her voice breaking. "Please, somebody tell me what's happening. Did I do something wrong?" Richard turned to face her fully, and when he spoke, his voice was gentler than Lily had ever thought possible from someone like him. "Lily, you haven't done anything wrong. In fact, you've just—" He paused, seeming to struggle with his words. "You've just discovered something incredible." He took a deep breath before continuing. Thomas Brennan was a very wealthy man. He made his fortune in real estate, buying and selling properties all over Chicago. He never had children of his own, and after his wife died, he became quite lonely. Your mother didn't just clean his house. She talked with him, kept him company, made him feel human again. She brought you with her sometimes when you were younger. Do you remember? Lily searched her memory and found a faint image, a big house with a garden, an old man with kind eyes who gave her cookies. "Maybe. I was really little." "You were 4 or 5, Richard said. "Thomas Brennan fell ill about 8 years ago. Your mother cared for him during his final months. And before he died, he did something extraordinary. He created a trust fund. A very substantial trust fund. And he named you as the sole beneficiary." The room was completely silent. Lily heard her own breathing, rapid and shallow. "I don't understand," she whispered. Jessica knelt down beside Lily's chair, taking her small, dirty hand in her clean one. "Honey, Mr. Brennan left you money. A lot of money. That card your mother gave you? It's connected to an account that's been growing for years, waiting for you." "How much?" Lily asked, and the words came out so quietly they were almost just breath. Richard and Margaret exchanged glances. David opened his folder and pulled out a document, quickly scanning it. When he looked up at Lily, his eyes were damp. "Lily," Richard said slowly, "the current balance in your trust fund, including all accumulated interest and investment returns, is approximately $47 million. The world stopped spinning. Lily was sure she had heard wrong. She must have heard wrong. Those words didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense. "I'm sorry," she said, shaking her head. "I don't what?" $47 million, Margaret repeated softly. "Lily, sweetheart, you're wealthy. Very wealthy. You never have to worry about money again. Not for food, not for shelter, not for anything." The tears came then, sudden and overwhelming, pouring down Lily's face in hot streams. Her whole body began to shake. Jessica wrapped her arms around her and held her tight while Lily sobbed into her shoulder. years of fear and hunger and loneliness and exhaustion finally breaking free. "It's okay," Jessica murmured, stroking her hair. "Let it out, honey. Let it all out." Richard, this powerful man who minutes ago had looked at Lily with disdain, got up from his desk and poured a glass of water from a crystal pitcher. He brought it to Lily with hands that were still trembling slightly. "Here," he said gently. "Drink this." Lily took the glass, her hands shaking so badly that water sloshed over the rim. She managed a few sips, the cool liquid soothing her burning throat. "I don't understand," she said again, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Why didn't my mama tell me? Why didn't she use the money?" David, the lawyer, cleared his throat. "According to the terms of the trust, your mother couldn't access the funds. They were set up specifically for you, to be released when you turned 18, or in the event of special circumstances requiring judicial review. Mr. Brennan wanted to make sure you were provided for your entire life. But my mama died," Lily said, fresh tears spilling over. "She got sick, and we couldn't afford the medicine she needed, and she died. If she had known about this money, she could have." Her voice broke completely. The adults in the room looked at each other with expressions of deep sadness. Richard spoke carefully. "Lily, your mother did know. She knew about the trust. But she also knew the terms. She couldn't break the legal structure Mr. Brennan had put in place, even to save her own life. The trust was designed to protect you, to make sure this money would always be there for your future. Your mother kept that card safe all those years, and she made sure you had it, because she knew that one day you would need it. And today is that day." The reality of her situation was slowly sinking in, and it felt like Lily's entire world was being rewritten. Everything she thought she knew, everything she had accepted as her fate, was suddenly impossibly different. "What happens now?" she asked in a small voice. Margaret, who Lily learned was the head of wealth management, smiled warmly. "Now, we make sure you're taken care of. First, we need to find you a safe place to stay tonight. Then we'll work on finding you a proper guardian, someone who can help you manage all this until you're old enough to do it yourself." "I'll make some calls," David said, already pulling out his phone. "I know some excellent family court judges who can expedite the process." Richard stood up and straightened his tie, composing himself. "And I'll personally oversee the management of your assets. Lily, I want to apologize. When you first came in, I made assumptions about you based on your appearance. I judged you unfairly, and I'm deeply sorry. You deserved better from me, from everyone here." Lily looked up at this powerful man, and she saw something in his eyes that surprised her. Respect, and maybe even a little bit of awe. "It's okay," she said quietly. "People look at me like that all the time." "Well, they shouldn't," Richard said firmly. "And from this moment forward, that changes. You are now one of the most significant clients of this bank. You will be treated with the dignity and respect you deserve. Margaret, let's start immediately. Lily needs clothes, food, a safe place to rest. Let's make it happen." What followed was a whirlwind that Lily could barely process. Jessica took her to a private bathroom where Lily was able to wash her face and hands with soap that smelled like lavender. Margaret called a boutique and arranged for them to deliver clothes to the bank. David made phone calls to social services and lawyers. And Richard, once so cold and dismissive, personally went to the bank's executive dining room and brought back a tray of food. A warm sandwich, soup, fresh fruit, cookies, and a tall glass of milk. Lily sat in Richard's office, eating slowly because her stomach had shrunk from so many days with too little food, and watched as these people who had been strangers an hour ago worked to help her. Jessica sat beside her the entire time, occasionally reaching over to squeeze her hand or tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. "Are you doing okay, sweetheart?" Jessica asked. Lily nodded, but truthfully, she wasn't sure what she was feeling. Relief. Disbelief. Grief for her mother, who had suffered so much and died without ever being able to use this money to help herself. Gratitude for Mr. Brennan, this man she barely remembered who had thought of her, who had cared enough to give her this incredible gift. And underneath it all, a tiny, fragile spark of something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. The clothes arrived in beautiful bags with ribbon handles. Margaret helped Lily pick out a soft sweater, clean jeans that actually fit, new socks, and a warm winter coat. There were even new shoes, sneakers that didn't have holes, that were her exact size. Lily changed in the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror, barely recognizing the clean, properly dressed girl staring back at her. When she came back to Richard's office, everyone smiled. "You look beautiful," Jessica said, and there were tears in her eyes. A social worker arrived, a kind woman named Patricia who explained that she would help find Lily a safe foster placement. But given the unusual circumstances of Lily's situation, the process would be handled with special care. David assured Lily that he would personally make sure she was placed with someone trustworthy, someone who would care about her, not her money. "We're going to protect you," he promised. "This is your money, for your future. No one else's." As the afternoon turned to evening, and the bank began to close, Richard made a final call. He arranged for Lily to stay in a hotel suite for the night, with Jessica volunteering to stay with her until a more permanent situation could be arranged. A car was called, a nice car with heated seats and a driver who smiled at Lily kindly. Before she left, Lily stood in the bank lobby one more time, looking around at the marble and the columns and the ceiling painted with clouds. This morning, this place had felt cold and unwelcoming. Now it felt different. Now it felt like the place where her life had changed forever. Richard walked her to the door, and before she left, he knelt down so he was eye level with her. "Lily," he said, "you're going to have opportunities now that most people never get. You can go to any school you want. You can live anywhere you choose. You can become anything you dream of. But money doesn't make you who you are. Your mother raised you to be kind and brave, and those qualities are worth more than any amount of money. Hold on to that." "Okay." Lily nodded, feeling tears threaten again. "And one more thing," Richard added. "Thank you." "For what?" "For reminding me why I got into this business in the first place. Not to get rich, but to help people. You reminded me of that today. So thank you." The hotel room was like something from a dream. A huge bed with soft white sheets. A bathroom with marble counters and fluffy towels. Windows that looked out over the glittering Chicago skyline. Jessica ordered room service, and they ate dinner together while watching cartoons on the biggest television Lily had ever seen. Later, after Lily had taken a long, hot shower and put on the new pajamas Margaret had included with the clothes, she sat on the bed and held the faded white card in her hands. This little piece of plastic that she had carried for so long, never knowing it was the key to a life she couldn't have imagined. "Can I tell you something?" Lily asked Jessica, who was sitting in an armchair nearby reading. "Of course, honey. I used to be so angry at my mama. For leaving me. For dying. For not fighting harder to stay alive." Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. "But now I understand. She was fighting. She was fighting to keep this safe for me. She could have tried to break the trust, could have spent years in court battles trying to get the money early. But she didn't. She protected it. She protected my future, even though it cost her everything." Jessica got up and came to sit on the bed, pulling Lily into a gentle hug. "Your mama loved you so much. More than anything in this world. And Mr. Brennan did too, in his way. He saw how special you were, even when you were tiny, and he wanted to make sure you always had what you needed. Both of them are watching over you now, and they're so proud of you." "I miss her," Lily whispered into Jessica's shoulder. "I know, sweetheart. I know." They sat like that for a long time, and slowly Lily felt some of the weight she had been carrying start to lift. The grief would always be there. She would always miss her mother. But now, mixed with the sadness, was gratitude. Gratitude for a mother who loved her enough to sacrifice everything. Gratitude for a kind old man who remembered a little girl and wanted to help her. Gratitude for people like Jessica and Richard and Margaret and David, who had rallied around her when she needed them most. That night, for the first time in years, Lily fell asleep in a warm bed with a full stomach, not worried about where she would go tomorrow or how she would survive. She fell asleep knowing she was safe, knowing she had a future, knowing that somehow, despite all the darkness, the light had found her. The next morning, Lily woke to sunlight streaming through the hotel windows. Jessica was already awake, talking quietly on the phone. When she saw Lily was up, she smiled. "Good morning, sunshine. I have good news." David called. "They've found someone perfect to be your guardian. Her name is Helen, and she's a retired teacher who's been a foster parent for 20 years. She's kind, patient, and she has no financial motivations. She's independently comfortable. You'll meet her this afternoon, and if you like her, you could be staying with her by the end of the week." Over the following days and weeks, Lily's new life took shape. Helen turned out to be wonderful, a grandmother type with a cozy house full of books and a garden where flowers grew in the spring. She taught Lily to bake cookies and helped her with nightmares when they came. She never made Lily feel like a burden, and she never treated her differently because of her money. David set up educational trusts and investment accounts. Margaret created a structure that would provide for Lily's needs while protecting the bulk of her inheritance for her future. Richard checked in regularly, and he and Lily developed an unexpected friendship. He told her about his own childhood, about being poor and working his way up, about losing sight of what mattered along the way. Lily reminded him, he said, of why any of it was worthwhile. Jessica became a regular visitor, taking Lily out for ice cream or to museums or simply for walks in the park. The bond they had formed that first day never faded. Years later, when Lily graduated from college, Jessica was there in the audience, cheering louder than anyone. But perhaps the most important thing that happened was this. Lily decided what to do with her fortune. She could have spent it all on herself, lived in luxury, never thought about others. But that wasn't who her mother raised her to be. She created the Sarah Parker Foundation, named after her mother. The foundation provided assistance to homeless children and families, helping them with food, shelter, medical care, and education. She funded scholarships for kids who came from nothing, just like she had. She supported programs that helped people like her mother, single parents working multiple jobs, trying to keep their children fed and safe. And every year, on the anniversary of that cold Tuesday morning when she walked into Sterling Trust Bank, Lily visited her mother's grave. She would sit beside the headstone and tell her mama about all the people they had helped, all the lives they had changed. "We did it, Mama," she would say. "We took the gift Mr. Brennan gave us, and we made it mean something. We made it matter." Because that's what Lily learned in the end. Money could change your circumstances, but it couldn't change who you were. It couldn't buy love or kindness or courage. Those things came from inside, from the values her mother had instilled in her during those hard years when they had nothing but each other. Lily Parker went from a homeless child with holes in her shoes to one of Chicago's most beloved philanthropists. But she never forgot where she came from. She never forgot what it felt like to be hungry, to be cold, to be invisible. And she spent the rest of her life making sure that other people the world might overlook or dismiss, knew that they mattered, that they were seen, that they were loved. And sometimes, just sometimes, miracles did happen, even to people who thought they were all alone in the world. The little white card that started it all, that faded piece of plastic that held so much hope, Lily kept it in a frame on her desk. Not in a drawer, not hidden away, on display where she could see it every single day. A reminder of her mother's love. A reminder of Mr. Brennan's kindness. A reminder that even in our darkest moments, there might be light waiting, if only we're brave enough to keep going. If this story touched your heart, remember that you have the power to be someone's miracle too. A kind word, a helping hand, a moment of compassion, these things matter more than we know. They echo forward through time in ways we can never fully predict. Be the person who sees others. Be the person who helps. Be the person who believes in second chances and unexpected blessings. Because somewhere out there, someone needs their miracle. And maybe, just maybe, you're the one meant to help them find it. The end.